welcome to the podcast Journeys of Deepening Trust. And today I have with me Jessica Riphenburg. Welcome, Jessica. It's really good to have you.
Thank you. It's so exciting to connect with you again.
Yeah. So I know, Jessica, we met in an online teaching with Betsy Bergstrom quite a few years ago now, and kind of stayed in touch on the peripherals of each other's life. But it's like we were just talking about how we tend to be the type of people who prefer to be on the peripherals, right? Just like those traditional shaman of being edge walkers, those kind of people who live on the outskirts and the edges of societies. And we were saying how this is our place of preference. So is there anything else you'd like to say to introduce yourself, Jessica?
I just feel really grateful to be here. And I forget how special it is to be in your energy, Tanya. Like, I just feel like we sat down and started chatting, and I just felt like you have just such this beautiful, grounding, peaceful presence. I'm like, yes, this is why I connected with you. And we're more in touch after the class. I was like, oh, I missed that. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for consistently holding that space and for calling me back into it. I really have missed our time and our chats.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Me too. And one of the things that caused me to reconnect with you was seeing how you built yourself up to become resilient to being out in really cold winter conditions, and so being with nature in that way. And yet there's such beauty, isn't there, in the winter time?
Yeah. I used to absolutely hate being cold. Oh my God. I couldn't stand it. And I would just plunge into depression. So it was a very concerted effort that I made. And now I love it. I went to work gone this year and I'm like, wait, it's gone. I'm not ready. It felt good to feel that way, although now I'm loving this. So,
So have you any stories you would like to share about your path, how you came to be on your path, that you'd like to share
mm,
today?
yeah. Gosh, there's so many layers of it, you know?
Yeah, I feel we can never fully do it justice,
Yeah.
but I think this idea of learning to follow spirit, of learning to follow that intuitive voice, that heart wisdom. So what is that like for you?
Yeah.
What Everybody has a different or slightly different experience of what that kind of following spirit or their guidance or those intuitive pulls that's led us to something that's brought us closer to our path.
Yeah. Well, gosh, usually I answer this question in a kind of the same way each time. And the way we were talking about nature and the cold, and I kind of want to start someplace else to answer
Okay.
the question. You know, like as we were talking about earlier too, is there's this deepening into the work that happens. And what got me on the path in the first place laid a very good foundation. But then what plunged me into the depth that I am at now and really embracing and connecting with the elements in nature in her fullest expression, no matter what it is, if it's below zero and storming and uncomfortable and all this stuff, or it's, heat advisory, like I was saying earlier, like heat advisory of 106 degrees. They say, don't go out there. And like, I want to embrace it. This is nature in her fullest expression. She is here teaching and guiding me. I want to be fully immersed in it. And I think what got me there, there's so many benefits to that, right? It really makes you a more rooted, like very strong, firmly rooted, deeply rooted, resilient person. Not, it's not just with the discomfort of the weather. That's almost like the teacher in the metaphor. It's how do I find that within myself when things in life are swaying me in different directions and things come up and feel like, oh my gosh, how can I move through this? How can I feel good about what's happening in my life right now? It's like the weather patterns in nature and immersing myself in those extreme states has shown me how to be so resilient and how to ride the waves of life. You know, whether there's something blowing up, as we say here. I don't know if that's an expression over there, but you know, something blowing up in my life and like personal relationship or um just life stuff out of my control. So, you know, what got me to that point was just coming to a place a handful of years ago of noticing I'm not living in alignment with who I truly am. And how it was showing up was that I was married to a wonderful person, and we had both changed and changed quite a bit. And the way that his spiritual path was taking him was to a place that he felt like he can't hold space for what I do anymore. And he didn't want me doing what I do anymore. So I just realized, you know, we really worked on the relationship. And, you know, again, just like one of the best people I had ever met. But how do you be in an intimate relationship with someone that can't accept who you are and accept the expression of that? And that was a really painful time because I think this is just a reality of so many of us, right? Is we get into our spiritual work, we start going down the path or not. We just realize, like, I'm not living my life anymore. This isn't actually my life. I'm not being me. I'm not fully expressing as myself. And so I really had to sit with that and say, like, okay, well, do I stay with this amazing human and reel myself in to fit what needed to fit into that container of relationship so that he could be happy with this too? Or do I don't know, like what comes to me is like burn it down, you know? And I went with the latter, and it was really hard and painful and scary. And there were so many times that I'm like, what am I totally messing up my life right now? Like, how am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And what got me through was getting out into nature and just like that constant affirmation, like, no, Jessica, you're on the right track. Like, you can still love someone and they can still love you, and that relationship is still a success. It can still be a success, even if it breaks the mold of what our current culture deems as a successful relationship. You know, what I started to realize was that I don't believe that a successful marriage means it lasts until we die. I believe that it means that we supported each other to be our fullest, truest expressions of ourselves. And then it's that detachment of what it needs to be or what it needs to look like. So the first big moment of like, oh man, I think we need to bring this to closure in terms of that marriage piece was I was like, all right, I need clarity. It's winter, there's snow on the ground. I think like daytime temps were like low 20s, nighttime temps were 15, 12 degrees Fahrenheit or something. I'm like, I'm going camping. So I packed up my car as like a very last minute decision, packed up my car with all my gear. I do not have gear for this cold weather camping, and drove a few hours up to Peninsula State Park in Wisconsin. Beautiful state park. Not a soul there. I'm the only one there because people are sane and nobody else is there but me. And oh my gosh, I went out and I drummed on the frozen lake on Lake Michigan, one of the five Great Lakes, and drummed by myself and just sang. And this coyote would come. It came twice, 2 days in a row, and just like would cross the frozen lake and just stand and watch me and then cross again. I don't know if I'm assuming maybe it was the same one. I don't know. But just all the experiences that unfolded. There were so many experiences that unfolded, and I knew in my heart, like, yeah, I need to choose myself. I need to say yes to aligning with my soul. And that was the big, like, kind of breaking moment for me of like, oh man, I see where this is going. And there was a lot of resistance because, it's like we get comfortable in our lives, whether it's a relationship or where we live or a career. Um, and I went through this process with all of those things, but we get comfortable in our lives and like things are good. Why would I disturb this? Things are good. But when it's not in alignment with your soul. So anyway, what developed from that process was what I now take people through. I call it sacred rhythm shamanic immersion and give people a taste for. But what developed from that process is like tuning in, doing the shamanic journey. What is it that I need to know? What is the clarity that I need regarding this situation? And then how do I move the energy and align myself with what's truest, what my North Star is? So it starts with the journey, connecting with my guides. There may be like a creative, artistic movement piece, vocalization piece, and then always it brings me out into nature. And it was extreme nature experiences for a stretch of time. And I think that will always be part of it. But I think I needed the extremes to break me and to show me I'm stronger than I ever thought. I'm much more resilient. I can do this. I don't need to have all the gear to be prepared. It might not be as comfortable, but that's also part of the process. So, yeah, I'd say that was the way into this deepening of where I feel like I am today, which is not completely unshakable, but it's a lot closer to that than it's ever been in my life.
That's beautiful. I love that real nature immersion of that direct experience of nature as a teacher and a guide.
Guide through a really probably one of the hardest times of my life, hardest decisions, and
Yeah.
like finding my strength in it and a lot of healing. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I really resonate with a lot of what you've said about being able to break ourselves out of those comfort zones.
Mhm.
And as much as we may know that's what we need to do, it's not easy because they are comfortable, right?
So cozy. We
We
know
have
them so well.
to jump off that edge, and yet we do it. We might not always feel it at the time, but we realize, I feel more in retrospect very often, but we are caught, we are held. There is that safety net that is of the universe of creation rather than the ones we've created for ourselves. And it's learning to
Yeah.
trust in that.
Yeah, that complete surrender to knowing that the unseen is always going to support us. When we choose to say yes to aligning with ourselves in the biggest way, it's like constant leaps. I feel like. I don't know, that's what I love about shamanism is it's always inviting you to dive into your fullest, truest, most wild, feral expression of yourself. It's
Yeah,
kind of bottomless, I think.
yeah, yes. But
There's those uncomfortable initiations.
I feel that there's those the expansions that happen, and they say it's sort of bottomless. Like there's no framework. We have to find out the framework for ourselves. Yeah, there's the support of nature and our teachers and our mentors, but I feel very often we are stretching out to find what our gifts are and our own remembrances and to bring those back and then create that framework, right, for them to try and ground them and anchor them. So, like you've done with what you're just saying, sacred rhythms, that bringing that back to the people, right, bringing that back to community. How
Yeah.
does
Yeah,
that
I love how you
resonate?
said that. Like I'm such a visual Yeah, it's like a fabric that expands so far and wide and captures all of that non-physical, intangible energy and brings it back. And then it's up to us to how do we express it? How do
Yeah,
we bring it to our people, to ourselves, to this three-dimensional world?
yeah, yeah. The calling in a vision, I guess we could say, or bringing the dreaming into
Yeah.
the reality, right? The
Yeah.
dreamt reality. So that
Yeah.
kind of,
Oh, it's just that saying that Alberto Villoldo has popularized, but I think it came from his teachers in the Kiro lineages. Shamans dream the world into being, and that just
oh,
such a guiding star for me. I like to share that one a lot. It's such a good one, right? We're all dreaming the world into being, though. All of
yeah.
us.
Just while you were saying that, this little, got to mention this. It was a fledgling robin. So
Oh,
just flew up to the window and then back, and it just sat in a branch out there. You can tell it he's not got his little red breast yet. He's all speckly still.
oh
But
my
it's just
God.
like,
That is so funny. I had a robin flying at my window for 2 days in a row earlier this week. And I looked it up and it was like their mating season and they see their reflection and they're trying to compete or something with
yes,
themselves. They see it as another robin. And
very territorial.
yeah, so it's funny that you've got the fledgling today.
For the bold heart is the message I got from a robin that was visiting me.
Ooh.
So going back to talking about the sacred rhythms, which is you bringing something back for community from your early experience and that nature immersion that you had, and then finding the framework for that. Um, I'm going to jump to what's happening for you now, further along your journey, and you've just brought this beautiful non-profit into being called Sacred Threads, which I would love to hear more about and how that evolved.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, I've always been a gatherer of people and I love it. It comes so naturally to me. And I realize it's actually kind of a unique gift, I guess. I didn't realize that. I just thought, oh, it's easy, people just invite people and we're going to do things, right? But for a lot of people, it's not a natural skill. So when I went through some of my training, it was the Kiro lineage that I did the year-long medicine wheel training in, and we learned a fire ceremony and we were given the blessings to bring it back to our community. And I thought, well, this is fun. This is like a good way for me to gather people around something that I'm learning and integrating and a nice structure. And I started doing them every full moon and every new moon for I think the first year I did that. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Ceremony. But it was so fun and it was so connective and I was getting really good feedback on it and people wanted to do more things and other things. And so I just went really deep into these group experiences. And, I'd been doing that sort of stuff before, but it was a little less formal, a little less of a focal point. And then once I had this bigger focal point and then a little bit of socializing as a part of that and just seeing how it was really changing me and it was really changing and touching other people. Like I really feel very energized by this. So I just went deeper and deeper into group work and ceremony work with groups and whatnot, and then playing around with, oh, well, how do I take my process that I was explaining earlier of like moving through this huge kind of rebirth experience of the dissolving of the marriage? How do I take that process from a solo process into a we do it together process? And of course, everyone comes with different goals and experiences and whatnot. Some people are looking to simply up level their life or be in community. Some people are looking for guidance through a threshold time like that in their lives, or not. It's a spectrum. So it's the way that offering presents itself is in a way that connects with everyone wherever they are on that spectrum. And so just like having that experience then of, oh, we're doing the work together in community, and it's the same community over the course of seasons. And man, I love that. And somewhere through this process over the several years that I've been diving deeper and deeper, is it was put on my radar of, well, why don't you start a nonprofit? And I'm like, well, that sounds like a big deal. I don't know about that, but it's something I had thought about in the past, and I was being encouraged by some people that are pretty well versed in these sorts of spaces and offered to help. So I just was like, oh, yeah, let's explore this. And then just realizing like, oh, this is exactly where I've been going is we do the healing in groups. We heal in community, and just seeing how quickly people were healing things that they were bringing to the table, not even the intention with the shamanic immersion, but this healing was accelerating and happening for them, and their lives were changing, and things were getting better and better for them so quickly. And just noticing, oh, yeah, that thing that many spiritual traditions talk about is when you come together in groups, the work, the healing is amplified and accelerated. I'm like, it's true. People were having quicker progress versus the one-on-one work in shorter amounts of time. So it just really gave me that fuel of like, it's first of all, it's fun to come together in groups and be in community with people that are deeply immersed in this stuff too. Like the conversations you can have and the types of things you can share. It's just very rich to have that community. And I've wanted that for a long time. And then add that component of now we get to come together and share in ceremonies and rituals and spiritual work together to grow and evolve together. Gosh, that's just the cherry on the sundae. So that's kind of how the nonprofit came to be. And it's been such a joy, just the connections that are happening, the friendships, the, collaborations, work partnerships, and there's a lot of really cool conversations happening of what can we build together.
Mm.
I think the events themselves are nourishing and connective, but they really are opening the door to people coming together and talking about what lights our hearts up. What do we want to see? We can look at the world and say the world is falling apart and it's a dumpster fire and all of that. We can. And we can look at the world and say, what do we want to create? Instead of band-aiding broken systems that aren't working, let's circumvent what we don't like and create the new reality.
Yes,
Yeah.
I so agree with that.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking back to our earlier conversations, and I think sometimes when I find people are a little bit too focused perhaps on that kind of negative thing, and I say something similar to them and I trigger them, right?
Yes.
because I guess they then feel that I'm disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
Because or I'm not taking things seriously enough. And it's like, well, that's your path. I feel that
Yes.
this is my path,
Yeah.
and maybe some people are there to be more active in dismantling the old systems rather than sticking plasters over them. But I feel like you that my path is more to do with envisioning and creating the new, and both are needed.
Yes, exactly. They are. We can't all be doing one or the other because if we're all working on fixing what's broken, who's holding the vision for what's possible and moving us in that direction? And
Yeah,
if we're all focusing on that, who's fixing and, doing the work that's right here, right now? Yeah, we need all of us. And there is kind of this, it kind of seems like there's this bit of an energy of, we all need to be doing the work in the world to improve the world, to uplift humanity, and it needs to look this certain way. And that's not how nature works. I mean, nature is a thriving ecosystem of diversity. The plants and the trees are similar and very different, and they are interconnected. There's that relationship that they have, that like a forest doesn't thrive if it's all the same tree. It's actually to its detriment if you've got a forest of the same tree and something comes through and wipes that out, like a beetle
yeah,
that what was it, the ash borer, the emerald ash borer here in the States. I don't know if you guys dealt with it there, but it came through and it wiped out all the ash trees. So if you've got a forest of ash trees and the emerald ash borer comes through, it's going to wipe out the entire forest. You need that diversity.
yeah,
The thriving ecosystem only thrives because there's diversity. And we just are so disconnected from nature that we forget, I think, that like all of us have something important to share and we can't all be sharing and doing the same things. I don't know.
yeah.
What do you think?
Early on in my journey, at least my journey as I was shifting from Buddhism into shamanism, I was working with, I'd left a marriage which I'd thrived in because, with the children, it was structured and everything, it had its structure and I thrived in that structure. But then when I no longer had that and I no longer needed to do that, I could then go more into my fluidity and the dreaming. And it was like, I didn't really want to come out of it. It's like, well, how do I create a structure? Because this is a part of me that I've denied for so long. And I started to see this structure as this great sort of rusty, like scaffolding that was rising out of this sea. And it's like, how do I sort of bring this together and alchemize it? And it was only when I realized, oh, because it needs to be organic. The structure needs to be organic. And I saw it as a coral reef, which constantly grows and shifts and changes. And like you say, it's the diversity. And then it was like, you can still have structure, but one that is organic and works with that fluidity, and so becomes more balanced and healthy and thrives. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was my process.
Yeah, it sounds similar to mine in the way you describe it, similar, just using different elements.
So I know it's relatively new, but how do you see that new leadership evolving? Because I love this movement away from hierarchy.
Yeah.
Some people call it synarchy. We all have different experiences or different levels of experience. And in hierarchy, I feel there's often this misunderstanding that just because somebody has a certain level of experience in one thing, that level of experience is in everything, and it's not. We're a mixtures of inexperienced and highly experienced and everything in between. And I feel moving away from hierarchy, we can again celebrate that diversity within ourselves.
Hmm.
So do you want to say a bit more about how you envisage that new leadership to work with individual diversity as well as that group
Yeah.
diversity?
Yeah, well, we're playing with it. We're putting it in action now, so it'll be fun to see how it evolves. Yeah, I have this sense that there's an opportunity to have, like an inner circle of leadership that is committed to holding the vision of what it is that we see and align with for humanity. So for us, there's a few of us that we've had lots of conversations over the course of time of, what is it that you see in terms of like, how are we living? Where are we living? How are we nourishing our bodies? How are we spending our time? What are the skills that we feel are important to deepen for ourselves, to share with our community? What's the education that we feel we can deepen for ourselves, share with our community, pass down to our children and future generations, and like all those conversations, and realizing, wow, we've all been holding these pieces to the same puzzle and having the same visions and things that like, I'll see a piece of it and then Angie will have a piece that's a little different and I'm like, oh wow, your piece lights up my piece when you put it together, or Kelly or Megan or, whatnot is there's like these visions we've all had and now we're taking the time and space to talk about them and it's lighting up and it's expanding. It's like stepping into our own little nodes in the web of life and it just like our lights are becoming bigger, brighter, more powerful and it's just brightening these pathways between us and expanding outwards. So I see that shared leadership is like that, right? So we have the shared vision and we talk about the shared vision and then allow the vision to amorph a little bit too. None of us are like, this is the way. I know the truth and I have the way and this is it. It's like, no, there's so much flexibility and fluidity, right? Because my vision, well, I'm the one that said, okay, yes, I will bring this collective, which is the nonprofit, into the 3D. And I've got a vision and desires, but or there's vision and desires as part of that. It comes from spirit, and that in my human visions and desires, I need to like hold them lightly because other people come in and they're like, what about this? Well, Jessica, this isn't really working the way you envisioned. I think it needs to flow, it needs to evolve, change, shift. And it's like, yeah, yes, it does. You're right. So having that, and I think it requires a certain amount of trust within the circle that we all come to the table with love for each other because there is that piece. Like we're humans, so we're going to step on each other's toes. We're going to have disagreements. There will be those potentials for well there's going to be conflict, right? And those are potentials to either let our relationships weaken and fizzle or to become stronger. So part of that shared leadership is okay, so we have to have some rules in place of like, bring your truth. You got to speak your truth. We have to be transparent here. We can't be hiding and holding things close to the chest. Full transparency, full truth, and let's know, when people bring the truth to me, and it might hurt my feelings for a bit, but please know that what's most important to me is that I know your truth and it's not to protect my feelings because I know it comes with love for me, for what we are creating, and for humanity. And as long as we have those agreements, and then we've got some sort of agreement of, how are we going to navigate the tricky situations that come up? How are we going to navigate the conflict? And how do we do so in a way that strengthens ourselves, helps us become more strongly rooted, grounded, resilient in ourselves, more whole, more healed? And then that with the relationship, so between me and the person that the conflict has happened, and then how do we allow that to strengthen then the community? So I think like those are the shared leadership pieces that I see. And in terms of how it expresses when we think of leadership is like, I think of a church, for example, there's the one pastor and then the pastor has committees and teams and board and stuff around that supports. So instead of the one, there's multiple, and how that is expressed, it doesn't all have to be in the same way. So there will be, like for us, for example, there's several of us, the facilitators that are leading what we call the Sunday circles. And then there's people that are at that leadership level that they're doing kind of more like behind the scenes things, but it's just as important for us in the organization and everyone involved to really thrive. So there's, again, there's not that hierarchy. Just because somebody might be the more visible person, it doesn't mean that someone else doing the behind the scenes work is not just as equally important. So remembering always give gratitude and keep the entire team, I think, visible is like we are all equally crucial parts to this thriving. That's where I'm at
Yeah.
with it now, at least.
I love that. The gratitude and visibility of everybody. And also, I also really strongly believe that, a community's ability to handle conflict is its strength.
It is. It is. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen collectives like this try to take form with amazing people, but the conflict inevitably arises because we're humans and that's what we do. And then it just kind of fizzles. And it's such a shame. It doesn't need to be that way. Like, I think those are opportunities for strength and growth. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it's not handled adequately, it just creates resentment, or people end up leaving and,
Yeah.
without something being resolved. And that will always keep cycling back round within the community until it's addressed. Whether it's with the same person or someone new will come in and repeat that pattern.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like that saying, wherever you are, there you are. When people are like, "Ah, life, it's too much. I don't like this, I don't like that. I'm just gonna sell everything and move away." And you do that and you get there and you're like, "Oh, everything's amazing." But then those patterns, those energies are gonna find you again. You can't run from the things that are calling you to evolve and grow and expand as a human.
Yeah. Want to go back a little way, to what you were saying earlier about, working within the groups and finding there's this exponential healing that starts to happen within groups. And before we started recording, we were both talking about how we're feeling this shift from working one to working more within groups in different ways.
Mm.
Um, and yet I don't feel I fully know what that is yet. But I could, when you started talking about that, I could almost like taste it. There's a sense of, yeah, there is something new coming in around this whole, or the current or the past healing, and how that's been evolving, or even this idea of therapy and the seriousness of it, where actually we can heal just as well in community by engaging in relationships, especially those where there's conscious awareness of the dynamics and that transparency and that trust, all of those ingredients that are needed for a really well held space. Yeah, would you like to say something around that?
Hmm.
Around what you're feeling that may look like or is looking like for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, well, you touched on a couple of things that I think are really important ingredients too, right? Like the seriousness. I think when we're doing the work, the healing work one-on-one or personal, just for myself, for example, I can get real serious about it because it's like you're just so like in the zone with the intention and the focus. And there's that element of playfulness and joy in like not taking life or any of this so seriously that is easy to lose sight of when you're one-on-one or by yourself, I think, at least in my experiences. And it takes kind of that concerted effort to bring that, because I think that's really important. I think the joy and the playfulness is also really important. And I mean, the same can happen, of course, in a group. We can all come together and be very serious and, very focused and stuff. But I think remembering that we're not here to just be in a perpetual state of healing. We're here to have fun and live in joy. And it just takes one person in a group to remind us to that, right? To remind us, like, oh, wait, hey, we can also have fun and be silly and be playful and dance around and make weird animal noises or whatever your thing is. We do all kinds of silly stuff in our circles, but I think that's really helpful. And, when we're doing that in groups, it just reminds us each as we walk away and integrate, and we are doing the work by ourselves, in between, is like, yeah, let's remember to be in the playfulness of life. Let's remember to be in the joy of life. So there's that piece. And then, yeah, there's just, I do not know the Bible well. I should say I don't really know it at all. But I do really appreciate the teachings of Jesus that I know. And he comes to me a lot in my shamanic journeys, which is kind of a funny thing. And well, not anymore, but it was funny when it first started happening. So I do really admire the teachings that I know. And I think there's something that says that, when groups of two or more come together in my name, essentially the power is amplified.
Yeah.
And this exists, I think, in many spiritual traditions. This idea exists. And probably the first day I started offering the sacred rhythms shamanic immersion several years ago, I'm like, oh, this is what Jesus was talking about.
Mm.
And why is it that way? I don't know. I guess if we're just energy and we're holding a similar vibration, frequency, focus, intention, I suppose that makes sense. Like you bring one candle into a room and it's going to light up the immediate 6, 12 inches or something. You bring two candles or three candles or 10 candles. Now the room is fully illuminated. So I guess it's maybe like that.
And what you were saying about the play and joyfulness reminded me of what happened to you, which you talked about right at the beginning of Coyote. Now, to
Yeah.
me, and what my teachers taught me is Coyote is the trickster.
Yeah.
He's the one that turns our perceptions round, like the sacred clown that was so necessary in many of the
Mm,
indigenous tribes, is so people wouldn't get stuck
yeah.
in their perceptions, and so that they would be there to kind of turn things on their head and challenge the way that things were being done, and maybe irritate people and trigger people, but it was part of community as well. Eh?
Yeah.
Mm.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So we had our first festival on the solstice. So a little over a week ago, we had a festival for the summer solstice. And I had been doing fire ceremonies for the solstices and equinoxes for 5 years and wanted to do a festival, but needed more support. So I'm like, all right, we got it. We got the team together. We're going to do a festival. And I did an opening, we did a little kind of guided shamanic journey. And then this woman, Lauren, she does like clowning and comedy and stuff. So she led us through all these really playful, silly things. And I think it was just so much fun. I think it probably really broke all of us out of our shells a little bit, and not all of us knew each other, and like we're just doing weird, silly stuff that it was so fun though. And I think it just really sets the tone. It really lifts the energy very quickly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so
Mm.
important. We just forget. I don't know why we forget. I forget too. And then I have to remember, and then just it takes some real courage to be like, okay, now we're changing the energy and we're going here. And that can look like all kinds of things. Again, lots of animal noises and dancing, and sometimes there's some colorful language in there. So to just like, how do we break out of that? How do we break out of that seriousness?
Yeah, in my experience, two of the quickest things, right, to raise frequency
Yes.
is laughter and music.
Yeah, you're right.
And sort of sing along with some uplifting, preferably uplifting music of some sort, or some real dance music or whatever. But that's the way to really quick shortcut to raising raising your frequency.
Yeah. And it's just so interesting how quickly our perceptions can change when we do that, right? When we upshift our energy into that state of joyful, playful, uh,
The elemental, the nature spirit, right?
right.
Parts of ourselves,
Yeah.
the magical child.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of like breaking a cast,
Mm.
being free.
So I have really enjoyed our conversation. I feel it's been a little implicit in what we said.
Mhm.
And I know in a previous conversation this came up, that it's, to have a vision for the future right now, it's almost like things are just unfolding. We don't hold visions in the same way anymore. How do you see what's unfolding for you for the future, your work, your personal work, your work with sacred threads, and globally, in the world? We spoke about the importance of being creators and creating something new. So in a way, we are holding that new vision, because that needs to be created so that the old can be dismantled. But yeah, what are your hopes and dreams for this unfolding future we find ourselves moving towards?
Yeah, gosh, that's such a great question. So what I notice is anytime I get focused on my hopes and dreams, what's the saying? Like, no, I'm not gonna remember. It's like tell God your plans and
So you can make him laugh.
right? There's that piece, right? It's like I can have my hopes and dreams, but I guess I do think of like that limitless love energy. I do use the word God, not in the religious sense, but yeah, I'll have my hopes and dreams in God. That like expansive, limitless love energy is like, okay, that's cute. So there's that piece, right? Is like I get little tidbits of information of the vision and I move in that direction. And then it's like a flower just blooming open in ways is like, oh, it's this. Oh, I didn't know it was this. So I know that there's that element to it, is there's always something greater that I don't see. But I think what really it fuels me every day, because it's quite a bit of work to get something like this off the ground and
Mm.
to really get it going and to allow it to blossom. So what fuels me each day is just that absolute knowing that the experience that we are going to have in life as individuals, as a family, as a community, as a collective, an absolute knowing that that is completely connected to the vision that we hold. And so creating spaces that people really get a taste of that, because we hear this stuff all the time. You are the creator of your reality. You can create whatever you want. Da da da. We hear it all the time. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's true. So how do we create those glimpses for people and then just continuously come back for ourselves and in community to see, like, see, look what we've created, look what we've created, look what we've created, right? So that's definitely a part of the vision, is to help as many people as possible to really know it in their bones. Because it's one thing to know these things intellectually. Yes, I'm the creator of my reality. I get it. But to know it in your bones is a different thing. So that's what I want to do. That's my mission, is to get to help as many people as possible to know this in their bones. And that takes, we need to be doing stuff together, like the festival, for example, or the ceremonies, the experiences, and whatnot. And once you get people at least in agreement of like, okay, so here's a space, we're coming together. We're gonna know it in our bones for this little slice of time that we are creating our realities, and we can shift the energy of this gathering right now in these ways. And then it's a matter of talking about like, okay, so what do we want to create? What do we want to create? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about or focus on what's not going well in the world. I think there's a time and place for that, and that's necessary too. But there are certain spaces that we need to just be visionaries, and we need to come to that common vision and hold that vision. Okay, so now how do we build it? Okay. Now it's a matter of supporting people and finding the ways that they shed this stuff that's out of alignment with trusting that the vision is possible. And that's, healing work and letting go, like dropping those little invisible suitcases of baggage we've been carrying around with us our whole lives, dropping that. And it's a matter of cleaning our energy field as much as possible, cleaning, so we have more space, more capacity to hold that vision of what's possible and to bring that in. And then at that point, now we're creating a new reality, right? So I guess I could have just went right to there. We're going to create a new reality. That's the vision. But I think it sounds kind of airy-fairy. It still does. But at least you see the process, right? You see the process of getting there is like, yeah, what do we want to live in? What's this human experience that we want to live in with our community? It's quite easy. Creating a new reality, I think, is quite easy, but there are those steps to get there, and it takes agreement. We all have to agree that this is how we're going to live. So, something like another practical piece of that I've really been enjoying weaving into our groups is, okay, I hear, Tanya, that you have this vision for how you want to live and experience life. I hear you saying you don't want to be in these old patterns or thought loops anymore. Do I have permission to call you out when I see you or I hear you going to those thoughts, going to the old baggage sort of stuff? And okay, I do. I have got your permission. So how do you want me to do that? Do you just want me to say point blank, hey, you're talking about your old crap again? Or is there a code word? Is there a fun thing? Is it a face? Is it something I do? I don't know. But like, how do we hold each other accountable to, you're doing the thing again? You said you didn't want that. That's not part of the new reality. I'm going to call you on that, and let's rise together.
Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. It's really, really inspiring. Yeah, I'm sort of contemplating what I want here, in this physical space. And actually, what you said, it's like that space to be visionaries. I think, yes, I want this to be a space for visionaries.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd be happy to give you the shortcuts or the long cuts. Here's what's worked. Here's what hasn't. I'd love for these communities to pop up all over the world.
yeah,
And they do. They exist. It's not
yeah,
like,
definitely.
but you know, we can learn from each other and support each other.
I think there's an idea brewing here, but maybe, hopefully, you'll come back in and
Yes.
talk about how things are evolving. Then 6 months or so, we can really see how that vision has been grounded or the dream has been grounded and what it really looks like. That would be amazing.
Oh my gosh, I'd love that. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jessica. I've so enjoyed seeing you again and having this conversation. I'll put links for your website and nonprofit and giving some more information about what else you do in the world, as well as what you've shared here today. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Oh gosh. Well, I think the last thing that I would love to just remind ourselves of is that There's so many good things happening in the world. There's a lot of good stuff happening. There's a lot of good people in the world. And I think the more that we can align ourselves with what's going well and align ourselves with the people that we see, like, you are just full of light and expressing what is possible and sharing what's possible and like be in proximity to those people, like we can shift the trajectory of the planet so much quicker than we think. I think it can be easy with news and TV and social media and internet and stuff to just feel like, it's going to be such a slog to get where we need to be as a society. But I think we can usher the new world, however you want to say it, in with joy. And as we were talking about earlier, when there's joy and playfulness to it, it brings more power. So let's maybe start to look for what's going well and what joyful, expansive, playful things are happening and people are out there that we can align with to bring it in quicker, because we can go the dreary route, or we can go the route of the joyful, and I think either way we can get to the same place. So
Let's do this. We can do this.
I
Yeah.
think so. I think so. I don't know. We'll talk in 6 months.
Thank you so much again, Jessica. And thank you everyone who's been watching and listening. As I said earlier, I'll put all of Jessica's contact details below. And sending you much love
Thank
from
you, Tanya. This
my
is
heart to yours.